Hey, my name is Colby Christiansen, and I've recently performed some research into the Chinese culture to better understand their customs and how they typically conduct business. I'm making this brief video to give some deeper understanding of their culture and some things that we need to be aware of as we continue to seek business relations with this country. Just a brief overview of this country. They're very old. China's been around for a long time, not as new as the Western civilization that we live in now. Um, the culture itself believes a lot in tradition. They have a lot of traditions that they've kept over the years and continue to keep those traditions today. Um, and so this is a big influence in their culture today. A lot of things that they do as far as business ties back to their beliefs that they've had over the centuries. So through my research that I was able to do in the paper, I was able to find some key differences in between the two cultures that I think are necessary to understand before we're able to do business properly between the two cultures. So the first thing I wanted to talk about was proper etiquette. So this is something that seems to be a little bit different between us and the Chinese culture. The Chinese have very high respect for their elders and for seniority. Over here in the United States, you kind of see more with the millennial generation tends to want to have mutual respect versus just automatic respect for being an elder person. So this is something that we need to keep in mind as we if we conduct business with them is that we need to keep the proper respect to the elders and to those of seniority, especially in business interactions. Another important thing that I found in my research is that the Chinese tend to be very non-confrontational about a lot of things. So they like to refer to this as saving face, which is basically they want to keep good relationships with everybody that they have. And this comes from like them. They want to really not offend you in any way. So basically, they would rather tell you a lie to keep on your good side than they would to tell you the truth and then offend you. And as Americans, we tend to be a lot more direct and a little more confrontational about things. We're very clear and cut and dry about what we expect and what we want, and a lot of times, if we go into these Chinese cultures and just throw that into their face, they could get offended, and it could ruin business transactions that we could be seeing. So building relationships is something that's very key with the Chinese culture. You need to make sure that you're taking the proper time when you meet them to develop that fundamental relationship before getting into the nitty gritty of the business transactions that you wish to have with them. Um, so trust is a huge factor with the Chinese culture. Without having trust, they're less likely to want to do business with you. There was a study that I researched in my paper where they checked with some different groups of Chinese individuals where they had them work with friends versus people they didn't know. And as far as business interactions go, they were more likely to conduct business with those that were friends with them versus those that weren't. I mean, it sounds pretty straightforward, but that's something that we need to keep in mind is that it's more than just business interactions. It's a relationship that you have with that individual. A couple tips that I found while reading through my research. One thing that's important to remember is when you're greeting those in the Chinese culture, is it's important to greet them with their title followed by their surname. So this could be, for example, like Manager John or um, Executive John, whatever their position, whatever their role is. It's important to make sure that you include their title and their surname. And this goes back to that respect and uh, phase that I talked about earlier. Another thing, so when conducting business, if you're offered a business card, it's common and polite to take the business card with both hands. Uh, Business card is almost like an extension of the person itself, and it should be treated with respect. Um, and then when having small talk with individuals, especially business situations, avoid political discussions at all costs. This is something that is very wise to do, and to be able to keep basic respect. That's going to be a good practice is to not bring up any political issues. And most importantly, out of everything I've learned, give face. So you just want to be able to make sure that you're giving them enough face time, that you're being very personable with them. You need to gain a good relationship so that you aren't just there to get their business and leave. To develop long lasting relationships is going to be key to having successful business ventures. And so that's what I learned, and hopefully that'll help you if you seek to do any business with the Chinese culture.